Hi everyone, we're going to try something a little different today. I'm going to call this a lightning audit. So the premise of this video is to set a timer for a small amount of time and see what we can uncover for a specific site. So the goal isn't to do a thorough audit, it's just to see what performance opportunities are obvious and what there might be out there. So the site that I chose today is Kroger.com. Kroger is a grocery retailer from the United States. Their headquarters is in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Their headquarters physically is about 30 minutes from my house. So full disclosure, I have not audited this site before. However, I do use it. I shop at Kroger for my groceries every week. I'm familiar with the site from a baseline level, and just by my own experience of using the site, I have some ideas of how the site is put together and how things work. But this will be an opportunity to pull back the curtain and see what we can do from a performance lens or see what we can identify. So without further ado, we're going to do this for 10 minutes. It's going to be a live thing. I might stumble over my words. I might click on the wrong things, but that's how you know it's the real deal. And we'll go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and start my timer, bring up my dev tools here, and I'm going to go ahead, get rid of that, and do a hard reload. I'm going to talk through this. So I'm not throttling anything here. No throttled internet connection, no throttled CPU. We're just using this as I would use it. So I see something already. It looks like there was a redirect here with that cookie improving your experience notification. Kind of interesting right off the bat. So it looks like there might be a bug if you have an empty cache. It looks like it might not be maybe saving that cookie. So this browser profile, again, I mentioned no throttling for internet connection, no throttling for CPU. It is just maxed out with as fast as I can browse through this. So there's also no browser extensions installed in this. I am logged into Chrome, but that is about it. So as I close this, I noticed right off the bat in this initial viewport here, 328 requests, 7.3 megabytes down the wire. So that is transfer size, and then 18 megabytes of resources on disk. So this is already like a super, super heavy page. If I scroll down here, they have some image carousels. I noticed there was a little bit of a layout shift there. So it looks like they have a shimmer effect here where they're reserving size for these different things in this image carousel. However, it doesn't look like they're reserving enough size because there was a slight jump down. We might want to take a look at that. If I continue to scroll down, lots of image carousels here. And you can see, so it looks like they reserve one line of text and then one line for maybe like this smaller font here. However, in practice, the actual contents of these things is often like 2 lines of text for the item description, the price, that small fine print there, the everyday low price on some of them. Maybe it's got a sale price, maybe it has a coupon, so on and so forth. So they might be better served by just reserving a small amount of space or a larger amount of space because it doesn't look like they're reserving enough. Now, the nice thing about doing that is since they have multiple carousels on this homepage here, if you fix it in one place, it will fix it globally, since that is probably done at the component level. So that's kind of interesting. I always like performance fixes like that, where I fix one thing and then it kind of blows out to the rest of the application and fixes it elsewhere. Okay, so more carousels, long, really long page. So at the bottom of this page, we finally reached the bottom. 574 requests, 19 megabytes of transfer size, and 57.8 megabytes of resources. That's huge. So I'm going to stop this network log so it's not going to record any more activity here. We're going to come back to this. Now, one thing with that large of transfer size, I think is interesting is, as I mentioned, I am on a fast computer. I am on a fast internet connection. I would imagine they get a lot of mobile usage. So we are going to check Treo here and see what their mobile usage looks like. If I go to www.kroger.com, look at this information, and lo and behold, mobile is 63% of their traffic per this data set here. So mobile outpaces desktop in terms of the Chrome user experience report data, and that does present an issue for people using like a mid-tier phone, maybe not a fast internet connection. So it looks like they are classified in terms of the Core Web Vitals qualitative label that they assign to largest contentful paint, classified as poor here. Also to Interaction Index Paint, classified as poor, and Cumulative Layout Shift. So CLS is also classified as poor. So that's all very interesting. Lots of room for improvement with that. So there's definitely some things that could be done on a performance front, and I'm going to go ahead and undock this here so we get a bigger look at it. I want to check out this very first resource here and see what I can find. So this is that overall timing. For me personally, again, fast computer, fast network, I get that first bit of HTML in 300 milliseconds, 336 milliseconds. That is not representative of how most people experience the site. It does look like, at least from this URL structure, they are using the CDN. And looking at this cache control header, max age 0, no cache, no store. That no store part can be problematic. I mentioned in a previous video that oftentimes when you have no store, it does disable the BF cache or back forward cache. So that is one thing that they could do with that cache control header if they don't have any type of like super private information, like a bank oftentimes would be appropriate to set no store, but maybe not for a grocery. Okay, so they are preloading fonts. It looks like there are 4 different fonts that are preloaded here. You can see these early in the waterfall. That's what these are. And my question would be, do they need all 4 of these font weights for that initial paint, or could they use, for example, like a variable font if they are just different font weights, or if they're just different fonts, maybe they don't need all 4 fonts right out of the gate. They're also doing some preloads here for like cookies, Adobe Tag Manager, and something called Softcoin that I am not familiar with. From this server timing header, it does look like they are serving from a CDN. Some pretty long cookie information, so lots of like long headers. And then they're using HSTS or HTTP strict transport security, which is good. And as I mentioned, they are using a CDN. Looks like they're using Akamai. So since I am so close to headquarters for Kroger, I would imagine that even if I was hitting the origin, that I am going to get a pretty fast experience because they are very, very close to my house. I'm going to take a look here, look at JavaScript real quick. So I know that this uses React just because I know some people that work at Kroger. And I can see that the size of this stuff, it looks like a lot of first-party JavaScript. So JavaScript, 67 resources, 2.5 megabytes of transfer, and then 8.7 megabytes on disk. So that is all kind of interesting there. So let me go sort back by the waterfall. So it looks like they're using polyfills here. The max age on the polyfill is only 900. That can probably be extended because people aren't really going to be editing their polyfills all that often. So that's something that they could potentially take a look at. Also to 600 for whatever this is. That might be promo type of stuff. Maybe they do want it only cached for 600, but maybe not. They are using compression for a lot of this with e-tags, which is nice to see, but again, we get to the trend of heavy site. I'm also going to take a look at this performance information here. So it looks like my experience is quite different than the average person's. I am going to go ahead and dock this down here, and then I am going to reload the page. We have a minute and a half left. We'll see how this goes. So it is going to go ahead and collect this. And one thing I notice here with this is that for most people, this image here, I'll bring my DevTools down just a little bit once this is done processing. So this image here is probably going to be the largest contentful paint for most people. They're preloading fonts, they're preloading cookie stuff, they're preloading other things that aren't this image. It might be better to preload this image, and that way the critical content shows up faster for a lot of people. So looking at this, I'll go ahead and undock again. We have some long tasks. Looks like, let's see, go down here. Yeah, lots of long tasks. You do get some profiling overhead, some Webpack activity. So there's definitely some room to clean things up here. Looking at where they're spending the most time, if I zoom back out, they are spending the most time in this window. We'll just cut it right there. There's our LCP. They are spending the most time. Let's see, self-time here, Kroger.com. So very interesting stuff. I didn't have time to get to everything, but as I mentioned, let me silence the timer here. As I mentioned, the whole purpose of this is just to see what we can uncover in a very short amount of time. So I hope this was interesting. I hope this was helpful. I hope it illustrated what I look for in terms of doing a performance audit. We didn't really even get into using other tools. I certainly have a whole arsenal of things that I use as I'm auditing a site, but you can do quite a bit just with the browser dev tools if you know what you're looking for. I did pull up Treo just to get a sense of how they're doing things at the origin level. But if this is interesting, let me know. I'd be happy to do more of them if people enjoy this type of content. So thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.